biggest person missing here is Christina Karam.
He was making bizarre claims, like he was Diddy's sex slave, and that Diddy had forced him to have sex with his girlfriend, Cassie.
Diddy allegedly, and his son allegedly, shoot some guy in a bathroom. There are some major dogs that are not barking here.
Could the most important names in Diddy's trial be the ones no one's even talking about? Candace Owens says yes, and what she found might change everything. Stay with us as we reveal who's missing from the story, and why their absence could be a major clue in this entire case.
I was like a sex slave. I had sex with Cassie and Sean.
He was making bizarre claims, like he was Diddy's sex slave, and that Diddy had forced him to have sex with his girlfriend, Cassie, and that he had contracted an STD from them and then had sued. And then he also talks about, like, the Black Boule and the Illuminati playing cards, and he's like...
Relationship between Diddy and Cassie ended up being verified and true and sounded insane at that time. He also says that Diddy's a member of the Black Illuminati and that he would hear him on the phone discussing matters. And the biggest thing is saying that there's a hip-hop agenda, and essentially they create these guys and enrich them, because really what they're doing, and in further parts of this video, on behalf of the feds, is that they're moving drugs throughout the United States.
Candace Owens just made a bold claim on her podcast, and it's raising serious questions about Diddy's trial. She pointed out that some powerful people connected to Diddy are missing from the spotlight. According to her, these aren't random names. They're major players who had a real impact on both his career and personal life. Owens says it's strange that they're not being mentioned in news coverage or legal documents. These are people who were once front and center in Diddy's success. So why is no one talking about them now? She called it selective silence, saying it feels like someone is trying to cover up important parts of the story. Owens believes that powerful figures behind big record labels and entertainment companies who worked closely with Diddy are being protected. She also asked why the same executives who supported Diddy during billion-dollar deals and public appearances are now nowhere to be found. They were part of the success, she said, so why aren't they part of the investigation? Owens gave examples of high-profile moments where these people stood beside Diddy at events, parties, and major industry deals. Now, they've gone quiet. She questioned if this silence is being carefully managed to protect reputations or even companies tied to Diddy's empire. She mentioned one executive by name, someone who's worked with Diddy for years and might know more than they're letting on. According to Owens, if these people aren't questioned, it's hard to believe the full truth will ever come out. And this might just be the beginning. Owens hinted that others could soon speak out too. One of them? Comedian Theo Vaughn, who's now adding his own thoughts and possibly new information to the growing conversation.
So she was all over the lawsuit, and you've had people since that have brought her up. And Skylar, I don't know, we actually wouldn't even be able to show that. And again, this is all allegedly, but this was the Ghislaine Maxwell that was always at his side. It has been alleged by people who say that they were abused by Diddy, that she was allegedly placing IUDs in women. People that have accused him of like a very aggressive form of rape have accused her of being the person that made all this happen. In Little Rod's lawsuit, he was explicit in saying that she was the supplier of all the drugs. She's just gone. Like she's just, for some reason, they thought we have to take down Diddy. But it was very clear in Little Rod's lawsuit that Diddy was kept high intentionally because of her, because she was instructing people to keep him drugged, allegedly, on this pink cocaine, and she's gone. Like I could not find a trace of this woman on the internet.
That if Diddy's throwing all these parties, Universal Music Group is in some way financially involved. But the lawsuit alleges that they're directly financially involved. And the lawsuit alleges that Lucien Grange frequently attended them and probably funded some of them, and certainly had secret meetings, or at least allegedly had secret meetings with Diddy frequently.
In his bedroom.
Yeah, in his bedroom for an hour or more.
Lucien Grange has been a very powerful figure for a very long time. Started as with a totally different name, by the way. I don't trust,
you're the one that put me onto that rabbit hole.
I don't trust men that change their names, least of all 3 times, okay? A family that goes from Goldstein to G to Grange doesn't make sense to me. And you have him at the top of the food chain, heavily implied by Little Rod that they were allowing this to go on to get blackmail on certain people, and they just disappear him.
And I mean,
What's the logic here?
It's
no
understandable.
Evidence? There's tapes. Little Rod said there's nothing but tapes.
Tapes of everything.
And that Diddy was taping the people that were coming as well.
Yep. Yeah.
When he's mentioned in a Little Rod lawsuit as the fixer, to show you how extreme what he's being accused of is essentially he's the guy you call if you shoot somebody.
Yeah.
He intimates this scene in the lawsuit, Little Rod, where Diddy allegedly and his son allegedly shoot some guy in a bathroom. Little Rod is as this guy is bleeding out, cleaning up, trying to help this guy. He's very close or just outside of the bathroom. Little Rod might have been in the bathroom. And he knows that after Diddy and his son come up and shoot this guy, he's trying to apply pressure to the wound. And they know that you have to call this guy, and he'll get the correct person over at LAPD to come over, and they'll tell a lie. And he says that the next day the press ran a story that there was a drive-by shooting. And he's like, that's not what happened at all. And it made me really think about the book Chaos that so many people on my podcast have listened to and watched. I mean, I have listened to, and it's describing a corrupt LAPD with feds that are involved and know how to disappear certain things. And we know that to be factually true based on the Charles Manson murders.
Comedian. Theo Von might not be the first name you'd expect in a serious talk about Diddy's legal troubles, but when he spoke up, he stirred the pot even more. On his podcast, Theo joked about how big scandals shine, a spotlight on some people, while others quietly slip out of view. But beyond the humor, he seemed to back up Candace Owens' claims that powerful people tied to Diddy may be staying out of the headlines and possibly being protected. Without naming names at first, Theo hinted at a long-time figure in the entertainment industry, someone who's been pulling strings from behind the scenes. He said it's usually not the loudest person you should worry about, but the quiet one in the corner, moving smart and unnoticed. Many believe he was referring to major industry. Executives, people who helped shape Diddy's career and cashed in on his rise to fame. Yet these same individuals have faced little to no public scrutiny. Theo questioned why they're not being held accountable, saying, "This isn't just one guy on trial. There's a whole team behind him that built and protected his legacy." Unlike Owens, who backed her claims with research, Theo shared what he's heard from insiders in comedy and entertainment circles. He talked about rumors, deals that should have caused scandals years ago but didn't, because someone with power made them disappear. "I'm not saying I know everything," he admitted, "but it's weird how certain names never come up." Theo doesn't claim to be an expert, but his honesty hit a nerve. As someone who's near the industry but not deep in it, his outsider's view resonated with everyday people who feel there's more going on than we're being told. He even hinted at a top media mogul whose career, in many ways, mirrors Diddy's. He didn't say much, but the message was clear. People should start asking harder questions. Theo kept his tone calm, but his comments definitely turned up the heat. If Candace Owens sparked the fire, Theo Von just gave it more fuel. And with the public now paying closer attention, the pressure around Diddy is only growing.
Do you know Sean Combs?
Puff Daddy?
Yeah.
P. Diddy, whatever you call himself these days. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he's part of what's called the Boule. The Boule is a branch of the Illuminati.
Okay.
It's the black people. I had settlement with Sean, okay? And he belongs to that agenda. That's why he's so famous. They land all the contracts. It's his attorneys. Basically, he would masturbate and tell me what to do with Cassie. I had like 15 encounters, and I heard a lot of business. Because what they would do is Sean talks a lot on the phone and on the TV with speakers and stuff, and I'll be in the...
I've never really quite understood why Diddy's fame has lasted this long, why he is so wealthy, how he's doing all of these extravagant things. Like, genuinely, I've never really quite understood it. And it's just interesting because when three things that seemed so crazy end up fact-checking true, he also mentioned in this, we didn't show this clip, but he mentions pink cocaine.
Yeah.
At that time, no one knew what he was talking about. Suddenly, Lil Rod's lawsuit is speaking about that exact same drug that he's saying is a combination of all sorts of drugs like MDMA and cocaine. And again, all of this is allegedly, but he says that essentially that's what Diddy is giving out at these parties that has people that is so high, rather. And then another piece of this, which we didn't show, which he said at that time in terms of saving Trump, was he says that he saw in the Illuminati card deck that they were going to try to assassinate Trump. Again, what year was this that Jonathan Odie was arrested?
That was 2018.
And we can also now confirm that he was indeed a sex slave to Cassie and Diddy because he's testifying at this trial.
Behind the scenes, it seems Diddy isn't handling the heat well. While he's been putting on a calm face in public, those close to him say he's deeply stressed by the growing storm around his trial. The added buzz from Candace Owens and Theo Von's claims, especially about the powerful people who haven't been named, has only made things worse. Sources say Diddy is frustrated and keeps asking why these stories are gaining so much attention and who's pushing them. Insiders say Diddy sees Candace Owens' comments not just as personal attacks, but as threats to his entire reputation. She's suggesting this isn't just about him. There could be a bigger group of powerful people staying silent or even covering things up. That idea hits hard for Diddy, who's built his public image over decades as a successful and in-control music mogul. Now, control is something he's reportedly losing fast. Rumors from within his legal team suggest there's tension behind closed doors. His lawyers are supposedly urging him to focus only on the facts of the case and not get distracted by what people are saying online. But with media and fans quoting Owens and Theo nonstop, that's proving difficult. Diddy's team is reportedly working overtime to stop outside noise from affecting how things play out in court. Adding to the stress, Theo Von's off-the-cuff podcast remarks have sparked even more public interest. Fans and internet sleuths are now digging deeper, trying to connect the dots and figure out who those missing names might be. Diddy is said to be even more upset now, feeling like these rumors are spiraling way beyond the truth. One insider quoted him saying in frustration, "This is getting out of control." Legal experts say the buzz around these unnamed figures could actually make the trial more difficult. Public opinion, they explain, has a way of sneaking into courtrooms, possibly influencing jurors or putting more pressure on the legal teams. And if the people Owens and Theo are talking about get pulled into the spotlight, this case could stretch out even longer. For Diddy, this unpredictability may be the hardest part. He's reportedly stunned that a political commentator and a comedian have become two of the loudest voices shaping how the public sees his case. To someone used to managing every detail of his brand, that loss of control is likely devastating. And while Diddy fights to get back on top of the narrative, something else is becoming clear. The silence from the powerful people around him is only making things look worse. Why isn't the media digging into these connections? That question could be the next big twist in this already explosive story.
Interview that Tupac is still alive
Yeah.
and he's in Cuba.
Drops it out of nowhere.
And that's been a major conspiracy that Tupac's still alive. I've never looked into that one. I just want to
I
be
haven't
very
either.
clear. But because I'm going back and I'm thinking it's just strange that everything this man said, or too much of what he said, has fact-checked true, which seems so bizarre. That another very bizarre claim he made, that Tupac's alive, he's in Cuba, and he's just like chilling and saying that. It just kind of gets you thinking about
All sorts of other things.
what is reality?
All sorts of other things.
What is reality?
I also, while we're on the Black Boule thing, that Jonathan
Could you
Audi
describe, by
brings
the
up
way,
the Black
because
Boule.
when you actually brought up the Black Boule, I had no idea what that was.
I don't know a lot about it, and I think that there's a lot of versions of it. As like, I think that it's like, Vatican conspiracies go all sorts of different directions. The Jew conspiracies go all sorts of directions, and the Black Boule, I think the understanding is that it traces back to like the black nobility and one of the royal families. And LeBron James does have a gigantic back tattoo of the crest, like the symbol itself of the Black Boule. Very literally the exact image. Or it's his chest, I think. It's
I
like
think it's on his
huge.
chest. I think I
It's
saw that
huge.
in your video. And
Kinda weird.
so that's interesting that he's saying he's a member of this, especially as we're now learning so much about what took place at these Diddy parties. And I want to be clear here. We can't really discuss Cassie's testimony because I try to keep this show family friendly, and I just
There's
can't.
not a single piece of that is.
That is right. I can't read anything about these transcripts. Suffice it to say, they were into just the most debased, disgusting sexual stuff that you could possibly imagine. She was very clear that she was high on drugs throughout a lot of it. I completely believe that based on what we've learned from Little Rod and learned from other people, including this guy, Jonathan Odie, that was definitively one component of this. But it's interesting that we're talking about the idea of these people selling out the black community on behalf of somebody else, because there are some dogs that are not barking. that had me very concerned in this case, because I read through Little Rod's lawsuit and I very much expected that the Universal execs would be brought into this into the hearing at the very least to testify. And also the biggest person missing here is Christina.
If the names Candace Owens and Theo Von are pointing to are really that important, why isn't the media talking about them? That's the big question many are now asking, and it's stirring up serious doubt about how this case is being covered. While Owens and Von are openly calling out the people they believe are being left out of the story, major news outlets have stayed mostly silent. Instead, the focus stays on Diddy alone, while the bigger circle of connections is being ignored. Some say it's normal for media to stick with the main person involved in a case, and Diddy is certainly the central figure here. But others are finding it odd, especially since some of these powerful names played huge roles during the most successful points in Diddy's career. These were top-level music executives and big personalities who used to be in the spotlight with him. Their names and faces were everywhere during major album releases and cultural events. Now, nothing. They've all but disappeared from the conversation. So what's really going on? One possible reason is the power of public relations. Big companies and famous individuals often have PR teams whose job is to shape how the media talks about them, or if they're talked about at all. These teams know how to redirect attention, kill stories, or make sure only the safe parts of a scandal get coverage. In Diddy's case, this could explain why some of the people who helped build his empire are suddenly invisible now. An entertainment reporter who chose to stay anonymous put it this way: these executives have long-standing relationships with the same outlets reporting on this case. The industry doesn't just report the news, it decides what's safe to report. Then there's the legal side. High-profile lawsuits often involve gag orders or carefully controlled public statements. That alone can limit what's said. But, beyond that, Owens suggested that some people might be staying silent out of fear. If they're still active in the industry, speaking out could cause a ripple effect, one that threatens careers, business deals, and the powerful networks that keep the entertainment world running. Whether it's fear, loyalty, or behind-the-scenes influence, the fact that these names are being left out of the headlines only adds more pressure to this case. The public is starting to wonder what's being hidden, and more importantly, why? If these figures are being deliberately kept out of the spotlight, their absence could end up affecting how Diddy's trial plays out in the long run.
In Lil Rod's lawsuit, he names the guy that was in charge of Diddy's computer system. He names the guy that was his tech guy that was in charge of all the cameras. And no one's ever spoken about him since. He's just gone.
There are some major dogs that are not barking here, and it's
and they're all the most important ones. Yeah, and we didn't mention Fahim Muhammad, who would be a pretty interesting dog to put on the stand, because Fahim Muhammad was one of the first people that we connected over. One of us made a video about him, and then the other one
I copied you,
right? And then that was the first time that that we kind of started interacting on content, and that rabbit hole started to go pretty deep. Diddy's head of security is named in this lawsuit, and he's named in this lawsuit as kind of the fixer, the guy that makes things go away, which is already pretty suspicious. And then one of my followers commented in my comment section that, hey, that dude was Michael Jackson's head of security. So I started digging into that, and that's absolutely true. And when you do the math, Michael Jackson's head of security, Fahim Muhammad, also Diddy's head of security, he graduated college like 1 year before Michael Jackson died in his care as his head of security.
One of two people that was there. It was the doctor.
Second on the scene.
And it was him.
And he graduated with a business and marketing degree with a specialty in real estate, which does not sound like head of security material to me.
Could these hidden names completely change the direction of Diddy's trial? That's the big question right now, as claims from Candace Owens and Theo Von continue to stir up both public opinion and media talk. Their comments aren't just random guesses. They're starting real conversations that could impact how the trial moves forward. Owens believes leaving certain people out of the spotlight doesn't just seem unfair. It could actually hold back important evidence or potential witnesses, and now legal experts are weighing in too. Some say if any of the behind-the-scenes names Owens mentioned are brought into focus, the trial might shift away from Diddy being the only one under fire. Big. Cases like this are often shaped by the story being told. If more names are added to that story, it could complicate everything. And if those names reveal wider issues, like deeper power structures or new allegations, the trial could grow far beyond Diddy himself. What started as one man's legal fight could turn into a much bigger look at the entertainment industry. This has happened before. Look at Harvey Weinstein's case. At first, it focused just on him. But as more names came out, people who helped, stayed silent, or looked the other way, the case exploded. It led to lost careers, industry shakeups, and more trials. Diddy's situation may be different, but the idea is the same. Sometimes, the people you don't see are the ones who matter most. There's also the matter of how the jury sees things. One legal analyst pointed out that if new, powerful names are mentioned, the jury might stop seeing Diddy as acting alone. That could give his lawyers a chance to argue he was just part of a bigger group and not solely responsible. On the other hand, it might push the prosecution to dig deeper, looking at whether anyone else helped him or protected him. Judges and legal teams are supposed to keep the trial on track. But with all this buzz in the media and online, outside noise can still creep into the courtroom. It might affect how lawyers argue or how evidence is viewed. Defense attorneys could even use this to their advantage, trying to shift the blame toward these unseen players. Meanwhile, public opinion is growing louder. As Owens and Vaughn's theories gain steam, more people are sharing old photos, interviews, and past business deals that seem to support their claims. Social media is buzzing, with talk about who might be involved and why those names are missing. It's turning curiosity into real pressure, and that could force the justice system to respond. At the heart of it all is one major point. Those missing names could hold the truth that ties this whole case together. Could they tear apart Diddy's defense, or muddy the waters so much that the real story gets buried? Candace Owens is convinced these people know more than they're saying. Theo Von's hints only add to the mystery. But if no one in the media or legal world digs into these connections, are we missing the bigger picture? What do you think? Could revealing these names change everything? The truth might be closer than we realize. Stay tuned. This story is far from over.